Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective Podcast.
Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, Chairman of the Shelby County Board of Commissioners, and today I'm very honored to have my good and long friend Kevin Kane with us. He's the President and CEO of Memphis Tourism. Kevin, I am really grateful for you to be here today. I know you have not stopped since the coronavirus came into our country. It has affected so many people in terms of tourism, and those people in our community that rely on hospitality and tourism for their livelihoods. Can you share with everyone, I'm just going to get straight to it, how many people has this affected in Shelby County?
Well, Chairman, we're still trying to determine exactly the total unemployment numbers. I think there's 400 and some odd thousand across the state, close to 500,000 on unemployment. The state is estimating that well over 60+%, some of the projections are as much as 67%, are hospitality related or entertainment in those sectors, which is obviously is tourism and hospitality. So, in Shelby County, as you know, Chairman, the employment base is close to 50,000 throughout Shelby County that are in the service and hospitality industry. So, many of them have been affected by this. And, that's the bad news is. The good news is that with the decisions you and the Shelby County government, of course, the city government to reopen parts of Memphis and Shelby County and the communities around us as early as next Monday, the 4th, you're going to see a lot of people being called back to work. Now, I'm not saying all those unemployment rolls will be erased immediately, but I do think you will see in due course, you're going to see a lot of people being called back to work.
You are dealing with an industry of thousands of individuals that live 7 days a week, quite frankly, in the hospitality industry that depend on their jobs. How have you and Memphis Tourism been communicating and getting the word out to the thousands of people in hospitality that have been affected?
Well, we've done a number of things. First of all, when this started, we started a daily call with the leadership of the industry, about 35 tourism and hospitality officials throughout Shelby County that would convene with us on a daily call that we would host. Now that we're 6 weeks into it, those calls are now about once a week, sometimes twice a week. Many of us are serving on a lot of committees here locally in Shelby County and in Memphis, as well as across the state of Tennessee. I serve on 2 different government task forces that are led by Governor Lee and members of his team, one with the Speaker of the House and one with the Commissioner of Tourism, Mark Ezell, as well as a couple of local committees for Mayor Strickland here within Memphis and Shelby County. So, through our website, memphistravel.com, and of course the I Love Memphis blog, and our training organization, which is We Are Memphis, all 3 of those portals have been very active during this time to get up-to-date information to not only employers in the tourism and hospitality industry, but also to frontline employees. Thanks to a generous grant from the Memphis Community Foundation of Memphis, they were able to, through their generous donors, we had a grant program that initially, before people could start getting their unemployment benefits and so on and so forth, we did a $300 per person grant program that was able to serve a couple thousand employees that could take advantage of that. And of course, there's been many of outreach programs as it relates to that as well. It's all been about communication. This is been a very dramatic changing situation day by day. And especially it's going to be very important now, more so than ever, for us to communicate not only to our industry, but through our industry to make sure that people in the region, people from other states are aware that Memphis and Shelby County is now starting to be open for business again. And of course, as you know, some things are phased in, like attractions and of course events later on, and some of the other services that tourists and visitors, as well as our locals, like to take advantage of and partake in on a daily and weekly basis. So, our communication now is going to be amped up and going to be, in some ways, more important now than it's been over the last few weeks, because now we're back to the business of communicating with the audiences that come here to support a lot of these businesses, small and large, in Memphis and Shelby County, that make a lot of their revenue and supports a lot of their employees through the visitor economy. We're at the tip of the spear, as the Governor Lee has said, and of course Mark Ezell, the Commissioner of Tourism. Tourism and hospitality is at the very tip of the spear of this pandemic and the impact that it's had. And in Memphis, we in Shelby County, we have over 12 million visitors that come to our community on an annual basis. And of course, today's May, the 1st of May, and, we would be getting ready for the Beale Street Music Festival that would have all of our hotels that would be sold out throughout Memphis and Shelby County today for a big Music Fest weekend as we kick off as we would be normally kicking off the Memphis in May festival month. And here we are, our hotels are running across the county, I think about 27% occupancy in downtown Memphis, which has been the hardest hit. Our hotels are in single digits because they rely so heavily on, the people that stay in our downtown hotels and the conventions and groups. And of course, events like Memphis in May and the events that take place at the Orpheum Theater and the FedEx Forum, et cetera. So, we got a long road ahead of us, but it starts one day at a time, and starting next Monday, we are starting that journey, and hopefully people will do the right thing and take the Tennessee pledge and do the things that the Shelby County Health Department is asking us to do, and all of our mayors and all of our leaders, such as yourself and others, to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And I think you're going to be very impressed. I think tourism hospitality, which is a very highly regulated industry to begin with, the restaurants are very highly regulated, as you know, Chairman, as well as hotels. And I think you're going to see that they're going to have the necessary protocols in place to make sure that the guests and visitors are going to feel safe, and best practices will be used. And hopefully we will be part of the solution, not part of the problem of making sure that we keep COVID mitigated and declining here in the great state of Tennessee.
Kevin, are there any best practices? This is very foreign for the United States of America, but for years in Asia and other countries, you watch the national news and you see regular people that go to work every day. They get on mass transit. They use face masks as a prevention tool all the time. And but this is very new for us in Memphis and Shelby County. It's new for the country. In terms of best practices in other countries, how has your industry had to deal with this over the years, or is there nothing really, Kevin, to compare to in terms of what restaurant owners do now, what hotels do? Do you chart your own new course and try to figure it out along the way, or is there any model that anybody has done before that works?
Chairman, most of our national and global leaders in tourism and hospitality, companies like Marriott and Hilton, and of course a number of our big airlines, they certainly have seen pockets of infectious diseases and the impact of these types of viruses and what they can do in certain parts of the world. And there's been other areas, not so much the United States, that have been dealing with these flare-ups. Certainly nothing to the magnitude that we are seeing right now. And there are best practices out there. And I think a lot of those things, face masks, gloves with handling of food, and a lot of those things have been used in other places for years. It's not uncommon if you're in a airport, even over the last few years, if you're in a transfer airport like Atlanta or Seattle or Los Angeles, you would see a lot of travelers that are coming from different areas of the world that were traveling with face masks, even when there was no threat of COVID. So I do think that we are learning what others have done in the past. And I think some of this, as you say, is we are charting new courses that have been recommended by the CDC and health infectious disease officials that are basically telling us what are the best practices and the things that we should be doing as we re-enter into a lot of people starting to move around again. So the social distancing and all those things. And I think you will find very quickly, whether it's Graceland, the zoo, the National Civil Rights Museum, or a small restaurant or a large restaurant, I think you're going to find that in hotels, you will find that people will certainly have those best practices in place. And I think the guests, whether they're local or whether they're from out of town or from some other part of the world, they're going to feel very safe traveling back in the hospitality and tourism space. We know that it's going to be a process. We know that when Monday rolls around in Memphis and Shelby County, that it's not going to look like New Year's Eve right out of the gate. There's going to be a lot of people that for safety reasons will move very cautiously and will re-enter society very carefully. I think that you will find that probably there will be a number of restaurants in Shelby County that will not immediately open on May the 4th. I think you will see some people that will take their time and will, make sure they got it right. And that's not to say that somebody that opens on the 4th doesn't have it right. I'm just saying that some people are going to, go through their processes to make sure that their businesses are ready to provide the utmost of what's being recommended to provide a very safe and an environment for people where they feel very comfortable to go. And I will tell you, it will not take, Chairman, a group of folks from code enforcement or from the Shelby County Sheriff's Department or the police department. The people will be the judge. The people that go into restaurants and go to an event or wherever they may go, they will be the judge of who's doing it right and who may not be doing it right. And I think, we live in a very social media driven world. If you are in this space, whether you're an attraction, a hotel, a restaurant, an event, we've already seen this. If people aren't doing best practices, people are going to call them out on it. And so I think you've got the jury of the populace that will make sure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing to make all of us as consumers, whether we're locals or visitors, feeling safe in any establishment that they go to throughout Shelby County.
Well, Kevin, I couldn't agree with you more. And what's been, I think, special about this, it's in so many ways it's very tragic, but Memphis has always come together in good times like Memphis in May and so many celebrations that you put on, but also we come together in times of difficulty. And I have never seen such a love for our hospitality workers, for our small businesses, for our small restaurants. It's amazing to see, quite frankly, how people adapted so quickly, for example, with the to-go orders, that for some restaurants have kept them afloat. And I've tried to do everything I can in our own family. We're still cooking a lot, but we go several times a week and do to-go or curbside pickup or even deliveries here at the house. But the love of our hospitality workers has really shown through this crisis. Any examples you want to share? I just want to thank all the people in the hospitality industry, the restaurant industry, that has really reached deep. Number one, to stay open, to keep people employed if they could, but to see how they've adapted so quickly, I'm quite frankly shocked. But any examples you want to talk about?
Well, I tell you, there's been a lot of people that have done a yeoman's job. And I will tell you, sometimes at the expense of profitability. If anybody out there thinks that your full service restaurants can make a total living off of to-go orders and takeout orders, they're dreaming. That's not real world. It certainly works for fast food, for some fast food places. I think Chick-fil-A and places like that who have a great model already in place. Wendy's and McDonald's, who were drive-through, was certainly a staple and part of their operation. But for most full-service restaurants, to go and takeout was a service. It wasn't really the main line core of their business practices. I think a lot of them are learning how to do it a lot better now, and they're doing a great job on it. And but a lot of it's really been the outcry of making sure they were providing a public service and keeping some people employed during this time. But it's been challenging. But I think everyone that I have seen full service restaurants that you would consider pretty high end restaurants that are doing takeout and to-goes to your basic meat and three places. I think everybody has done what they can do to provide a service for the community, keep some of their employees in place. And but I don't think they made a lot of money during this time. I think it was really some cases probably cost them money. And that's what's going to be a challenge coming out of this. We're so dependent in our economy of people moving around and spending money and just kind of being part of what you would call a full service economy. And it's going to take us a while to get that average of 1 million visitors a month that eat in our restaurants, visit our museums and our attractions, and stay in our hotels, go to our events, go to our sporting events, and whether it's the Orpheum or whatever it might be out there, Memphis in May, whatever it might be, it is going to take time to get that back. So it will be a process, and it will be, in some cases, it will be a little bit of a struggle for a lot of our small and large businesses as they get back into trying to figure out how many employees they can afford to keep on their payroll, because, payroll is typically a function of revenue. And that was one of the concerns that I had with PPP from the SBA. I thought PPP was really great for a lot of people. But as I pointed out to Congressman Kustoff, I said, Congressman Kustoff, you realize that PPP or payroll protection with no revenue can be a very challenging model for some people. And, you got to have revenue to justify the number of employees that you can obviously keep as part of your organization. And that's going to be a challenge coming out of this as PPP and other programs go away. How do we make sure that people are right-sized with their employee counts to handle and provide the services that they need to provide, and in some cases with a lot smaller revenue stream than what they were used to before all this hit us. Now, I certainly think we will rebound. And I think the America and the world, when I think there was, might have been Dr. Fauci at one point said, nobody should ever shake hands ever again. That should be a culture that goes away. And other people have said, we won't see a college football game for 2 years. And we're going to have sporting events with no fans. Now, look, I don't know what's going to happen as it relates to that. I certainly hope none of that happens personally. But, when you're in the eye of the hurricane, and you think there's no way out, people were making some pretty dramatic predictions of what the future was going to look like. I'm going to make my own prediction. At some point, COVID will be behind us. At some point, there will be a vaccine to either protect us from this or at least slow down the deadly effects of it. I truly believe that. And I do believe that the day will come, I don't know when it will be, but the term of social distancing will go the way of the pet rock. It will be in everybody's rearview mirror. And I do believe the day will come where people will shake hands and hug again, and people will be moving around and taking vacations and going to events. And the American spirit and the world spirit of what this industry really represents to the entire planet will be alive and will be working again. It may take some time as we get through this, but we will get through this, and people, they may do some things differently for the rest of their life. They may carry sanitizer in their pockets. They may wash their hands a lot more, and all those are great things to do. But this is not the end of the world as we know it. We will get through this, and Memphis and Shelby County is poised to we're a great destination for visitors, as you know, Chairman. It's a Absolutely. Big part. It's a big part of our economy. It's a $3.6 billion industry that supports close to 50,000 jobs and generates hundreds of millions of dollars of county and city taxes. And we will get back to that point. It will take a while, but we will get back there. And while all that's going on, the convention center, as you know, is still construction on that is still being improved. It's going to be a beautiful building. We're getting new hotels that are still being built and are going to be finished. And we're still going to have a vibrant restaurant industry. As I say, it's going to take a little bit of time, but we will get back there.
If you're just now tuning in, you're on the Chairman's Perspective. I'm Mark Billingsley, Chairman of the Shelby County Board of Commissioners, and with us is our my friend and community leader and the President and CEO of Memphis Tourism, Kevin Kane. Kevin, let me ask you this. In terms of next steps in the next couple of weeks, it's just been announced that they will be lightening the ability for people to finally enter back into restaurants. You talked about a little bit, but don't customers need to set their expectations a little bit for anyone to think that they're going to arrive at a restaurant that has now been allowed maybe 25% occupancy or 50% occupancy? I think we all have to understand and be patient with these restaurants because a lot of them have just been notified that they can reopen. I've got friends that are restaurant owners. Their freezers have been, quite frankly, empty for weeks now, and then the availability for food. How do we set how do we set our expectations as consumers as it relates to hospitality and restaurants?
Chairman, you said it best. It will not happen overnight. We were notified yesterday that we could go into phase one on Monday, May 4th. That gives a lot of people who have been without a lot of employees that have been laid off, and they got to try to get people back to work. They got to get their freezers and their coolers and they got to get their stock back up to a level to start taking care of in dining guests. You only got a couple of major food providers that serve probably 95% of the restaurants in Memphis and Shelby County. Well, guess what? They laid some of their people off too when all the restaurants were basically shuttered. And so, they've got to get those trucks rolling and getting the product to the various establishments. I think as a result of that, at the beginning of the show, we talked about that there will be some restaurants that probably will not open on the 4th. Some restaurants probably won't open until next weekend, or maybe in some cases even a couple of weeks from after the 4th. And that's probably going to work out good for everybody because you just can't flip the switch and everybody just resumes exactly we turned it off in a day or within a couple of days, but you can't just flip a switch and turn it back on that quickly. There's been a lot of things that have happened during that time. I would say this, a lot of restaurateurs as well as hoteliers have taken this time, and museum owners, to do things that they were never able to do when they were open. So you're going to see in some cases a lot of restaurants that have done a lot of improvements to their facility. A lot of people took this time in the hospitality industry because you said yourself at the beginning of the show that there's a number of this is a 365-day a year industry. Some of these places are open 7 days a week, and they're open morning, noon, and night. So, a lot of people have taken this time to really do some necessary deferred maintenance and some enhancements to their places of business, and some of them are probably not even finished with some of those projects now. So you're going to see things open, I think, in right time. Not that there's a right or wrong time. I think obviously all of our leaders, from the governor to our mayors to our elected officials like you, Chairman, they want everybody to be safe first and foremost, and they want us to do this data driven, not just necessarily date driven. But it is going to be a little bit of a process getting everybody back and operating levels that they were used to. And quite honestly, it may be a little different for restaurants, but for most people in the hotels and for attractions and stuff, they're not going to be flooded with tourists the day that they're allowed to open. And of course, the hotels have been open during this whole time, but a lot of hotels had to let go of a lot of their employees because of the severe reduction in guests that they were having. So they got to get those people back and get those people working again. So that's where we are. And I think we're going to get to that point in due process. And I appreciate you asking everybody to be patient as our businesses in this community get back to where they need to be.
Well, I've never seen a time where people didn't come together in this community, and this has been a great example of how we stick together. Kevin, you've been a great champion and a cheerleader and a relationship builder for our community for a long time. Memphis Tourism does it day in, day out, like we've said, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. I think so many people were looking forward to Memphis in May, and so many things. I'm a vice president at Christian Brothers University. We were looking forward to another graduating class like every other university. We're delayed right now. But like you, Kevin, I see a shining light in our near distant future. The summer's about to start. The sun is shining today. But the brightest light we have in our community is our people. And certainly your industry with tourism and hospitality and the restaurants, they really are the forward-facing people with our visitors that get them to come back year after year after year for so many of the festivals and exciting things we do, and even the local events that I'm going to miss this year. Like typically next weekend, I think you and I would be rubbing elbows at the Greek Festival over on Summer Avenue.
And the Italian Festival a couple of weeks after that at Marquette Park. You're absolutely right.
I always have my tent at the Italian Festival, but we're going to get there. Kevin, again, president and CEO of the Memphis Tourism. Kevin, we got a minute left for hospitality workers, for people that have questions about reopening, businesses that may need your guidance and support. How can they reach you and reach your staff? MemphisTravel.com.
Go to our COVID page, which is right there. As soon as you go to MemphisTravel.com, we will be keeping up with every opening, everybody that's open, everybody that's not opening, questions that people may have. Of course, they can reach us, and we're working very closely with the Memphis Restaurant Association, the Metropolitan Hotel Lodging Association, the Metropolitan Attractions Association, and of course, most importantly, we're working with Shelby County government, City of Memphis government, and the Shelby County Health Department to make sure we're doing and we're positioned to do everything we're supposed to be doing. Thank you so much for having me on your program today. And we are looking forward to sunnier days for us to enjoy this great place that we call home, Memphis and Shelby County.
Thanks to Kevin Kane, President and CEO of Memphis Tourism. Have a great day. Have a blessed day. And we hope to see you back in a hospitality or restaurant very, very soon in our great community of Shelby County. Thank you again, Kevin.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, my friend.
The Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Executive producer, Shelby County Commission's Chairman, Mark Billingsley. Directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.